people of Ghana, is your Nigerian God Pleasure, bringing you political news in our channel, Ghanatube. Minorities actually call for doomsday timetable, and the Minister of Energy has actually really responded to them, coming out to tell them that this is actually a misplaced priority. The Minister of Energy and Green Transition has described as in place the call by the minority in Parliament for a load maintenance timetable to be published. He actually called them misplaced priority. Member of the Parliament from the New Patriotic Party (NPP) at a press conference on Monday, May 18, 2025, called on the government to immediately publish a clear and reliable load shedding timetable as erratic power supply continues to affect homes, businesses and critical service across the country. They've actually called him out to ask him to actually bring out timetable for what we popularly call doomsday. The minority expressed frustration over what is described as the government's deceptive silence in the face of worsening electricity disruptions. They said the current situation amounts to an unannounced return of doomsday and is also being poorly managed by both the Ministry of Energy and the Electricity Company of Ghana (ECG). The Ghanaian people deserve honesty, not excuses. The minority stated, urging authorities to stop pretending the situation is under control. People are living in darkness because businesses are losing money, students are unable to study, and yet the government refused to even acknowledge their problem. However, in the press statement signed by the Richmond Roxy, head of the communication of the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, the ministry said it is important to note, as a country, Ghana's current power supply capacity is adequate to meet existing demand even during its peak hours. He also added that the government, led by President John Mahama, remains committed to resolving the challenge that have plagued the energy sector over the years. And so we may know that this is actually something that could be solved anytime, any day. Yeah, they are not calling it so. They are actually saying that a little challenge which they have will and must be taken care of, and President John Mahama is actually so swift and eager to actually do whatever it takes to make sure that he retains power and the power actually remains. He added that the government led by President Mahama remains committed to solving the challenges that have plagued the energy sector over the years, while acknowledging that we inherited an extremely challenged distribution system. The government and power sector players continue to take the necessary steps to permanently resolve this issue. So, there is no cause for alarm, because both the president, the energy sector, the transition has actually come out to tell the people of Ghana they are equal to the tax. Yeah, you heard me right. It's not something they cannot do without. It's something they can manage, and they've been managing it all this way. And it is actually a misplaced priority for the minority people to actually come now, knowing fully well that they left with extreme challenges. They left the government with extreme challenge system, and the government and power sector players has actually continued to take necessary steps to permanently resolve it. So it's no big deal. There's no cause for alarm, and the minority can just keep their advice to themselves. The current power generation capacity is sufficient to meet peak demand. Hence, there is no basis for a load shedding timetable at this time. The government remains committed to consistent provisions of electricity by Ghanaian people, as the Minister for Education has actually said. So there is nothing doomsday or anything that will feel that is actually doomsday in this. The Ministry of Energy and Green Transition has actually refuted calls by the minority in Parliament for the publication of a load management timetable, stating that Ghana's current power generation capacity is actually okay, and it meets the national demand even during the peak hours, so they are not going to take the advice that they've actually given. And in a press conference, they've actually described it as the minority score as the misplaced priority. Instead, there are no justification for shedding loads at this time. The current power capacity is sufficient to meet everyone's needs, and here is the letter written to the people of Ghana, the Ministry of Energy and the grain sector. And Ghana's generation capacity enough to meet peak demand. Minority score for load management timetable is placed. This is actually the letter they brought out to show the people, tell the people that it is not what they actually think, because the energy and the power sector is actually okay. Accra, Ghana, our attention has been drawn to the press conference held by the minority in Parliament demanding a publication of a load management timetable. It is instructive to know that as a country, our current power supply capacity is adequate to meet existing demand and during our peak hours, whilst acknowledging that we inherited an extremely challenged distribution system. The government and the power sector players continue to take the needed steps to parliamentary resolve these challenges. The current power generation capacity is sufficient to meet the peak demand. Hence, there is no basis for load shedding timetable at this time. The government remains committed to constant provision of electricity to the Ghana people. Signed by Richmond Dixon, spokesperson and head of communication. This release comes in response to the minority in Parliament urging the government to release a clear and dependable load shedding timetable, citing ongoing erratic power and supply affecting household, businesses and essential services. At the press conference, they criticized the government's deceptive silence and accused the Minister of Energy and the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, of mismanaging what they described as an unannounced return to themselves. The release signed by the spokesperson and the head of communication of the Energy, Richmond Dixon, APC, acknowledged the ongoing challenge within the power distribution system, which it said were inherited, but emphasized that both government and industry players are working diligently to resolve the issue. The government remains committed to constantly provide electricity of Ghana's process, as they've actually mentioned. So, in a nutshell, there is no need for any call for themselves or any call for timetable, because what we have is actually sufficient, according to the Minister for Energy Minister and the ECG coming from their office. Please do well to like, comment and follow. Put on your notification bell so you get all our news one by one. Thanks, my